School taught you algebra. It skipped the one subject you'd actually use. And it's been costing you since the day you graduated. Here's what not knowing this really costs. Right now, nearly a quarter of adults have zero emergency savings. Not low, 50. 3% couldn't cover a $1,000 surprise without going into debt for it. And it compounds from there. People with very low financial literacy are roughly twice as likely to be trapped in debt they can't get ahead of, 3 times more likely to be financially fragile, 5 times more likely to have no emergency fund at all. This isn't a small gap between the informed and the uninformed. It's a canyon, and most people don't find out how deep it is until they're already standing at the bottom of it. One estimate puts the total cost of financial illiteracy in mistakes, fees, and missed opportunities at over $246 billion in a single year. That's not one unlucky person's story. That's what happens when an entire generation gets handed algebra and never gets handed this. Household debt in this country has crossed $18 trillion, and roughly 3 in 10 people carry more credit card debt than they have in emergency savings. That's not one bad decision. That's a pattern with millions of people inside it. And here's the part that makes it personal, not just statistical. Looking back, 82% of adults who went through high school wish personal finance had been required, not optional, required. That's not a small preference. That's 4 out of 5 adults telling you this was the subject that mattered most after really living without it. You know that moment, filling out a form or staring at a bill as an adult, feeling like everyone else got a manual you never received? That's not just a feeling. That's 4 out of 5 other adults quietly agreeing with you. Most of them never saying it out loud until someone finally asks. Here's the story most people tell themselves about why this happened. School had room for algebra, chemistry, a foreign language, but somehow never found 40 minutes for how a paycheck really works, or how a credit card really charges you, or what happens the day you miss a payment. And the easy conclusion is that nobody cared, that there's an entire system quietly running better on confused adults. That story feels true. It's satisfying, even because it gives you someone to blame. It's not the full picture. It wasn't malice. It was inertia. Adding a required course isn't one decision. It's dozens stacked on each other. A legislature has to pass it. A Department of Education has to write it. Someone has to find teachers who can really teach it. And all of that competes for space against classes with decades more institutional weight behind them. Nobody voted to keep you confused. Nobody benefited from you staying that way. A slow system just never got pushed on this hard enough, soon enough, until the cost finally became too visible to ignore. If any of this is landing personally right now, stay for the next part, because this is where everything changes. So what was really inside the class you never got? Not vague advice about being responsible. 3 things almost anyone can learn. 1. How a credit score gets built. Not what a good score looks like, but which specific actions move it, and by how much more than the others. It isn't simply how much debt you carry. One of the biggest factors is how much of your available credit you're using right now, at this moment. And that number moves faster than almost anything else on the report. Everything else, how long you've had credit, what types you carry matters, but slowly. That one moves fast in both directions. 2. What compound growth does over decades, not years? The math is simple enough for a 9th grader. What's hard is the instinct. Because it looks like nothing for a long time before it looks like everything. That flat, unimpressive stretch isn't the strategy failing. It's the only part most people ever see, because they stop watching before the curve turns. The whole subject was never really about the math. It was about starting the clock before you feel ready to. 3. Where a paycheck goes before it reaches your account. the withholding, the deductions, the distance between the number in your offer letter and the number that lands. Most people can tell you their salary. Fewer can tell you what percentage of it they take home. None of that is complicated. Which raises a much bigger question. If it was this simple, why weren't we taught it? Here's what surprises people most. This subject isn't hard, it was never hard. A ninth grader can learn all three of those in a single semester. The same semester some students spend on material they'll never touch again after the final exam. The missing piece was never about difficulty. It was entirely about whether anyone decided to teach it. So here's how you get the version of this class you never received, compressed into what matters most. For the credit piece, one number to know, payment history, and how much of your available credit you're using account for the majority of your score together. Start there before anything else on the report. For compounding, one action beats any amount of reading about it. Whatever you can automatically invest each month, even a small amount, started today, matters more than a larger amount started 5 years from now, because the clock only starts the day you begin. For the paycheck piece, pull your most recent pay stub this week and read every single line, not skim it. Find the withholding, the payroll tax, anything pulled for benefits before you ever see the money. Add it up and compare it to your actual salary. That 10 minutes will teach you more than a semester did, because it's your real number, not a textbook example. And most adults have never once done it on purpose. If you want the shortcuts that turn all three into an actual habit, they're linked in the description, free ones included. Now here's the part one said would change how you see this video. This gap is already closing, just not for you. In 2020, only 8 states required a personal finance course to graduate. That number has already more than tripled, and it's still climbing every legislative session. Ohio's graduating class was the first one required to pass it. California has made personal finance a graduation requirement too. Here's the teenager I mentioned. Picture her right now, some ordinary Tuesday. In a classroom you'll never see, half paying attention, maybe doodling in the margin of a notebook. She's being handed in 40 unremarkable minutes exactly what took you years and real, expensive mistakes to figure out on your own. She has no idea how lucky the timing is. She never know what it's like not to have it. Everything you've learned today could have fit inside one ordinary high school classroom. You didn't get shut out because nobody cared. You got shut out by timing. Delaware has made personal finance a graduation requirement too. Georgia's doesn't even start until the class of 2028. This is still spreading, state by state. While you're watching this video, your graduation happened to land in the narrow window right before the wave reached your state. So here's the whole video in one line. Millions of people are living the reality behind the 24%, the 53%, and the $246 billion. Not because they're bad with money, but because the one subject that would have prevented it got added to the curriculum a few years. Too late for them. That's not a life sentence, and it was never supposed to be one. Every one of those 3 things is learnable in a weekend, not a semester. Once you're looking for it instead of waiting for a classroom to hand it to you, that girl in the classroom isn't smarter than you. She just got handed something you had to go find yourself, years later on your own time, in a video instead of a desk. You're finding it right now. That's the same 40 minutes, just a different room. So tell me in the comments, honestly, did your school require this or not? I want to see exactly how many years this missed you by. And if you want the deeper dive on any of these 3, that playlist is linked below. Subscribe, tap the bell, and let's grow together.